Hi, I'm Ben Tomes, the cool history teacher you knew probably smoked, with your perfect Strangers cannabis history lesson. Today, I use Fluent's Tiger Rose Hybrid THC oil to conduct my research, artwork, and reading as part of our strain testing. Let's head now to the Clinton Morning News in Clinton, Iowa, December of 1889, with a fanciful story of the dangers of hashish. Be ready now. When we read old newspapers, it's not always the easiest. The print's a little jumpy, so bear with me. All right. The effects of hashish. It often brings hallucinations, the reverse of pleasant. A patient who imagined her body divided in half after taking a dose of Indian hemp. Remarkable fancies of a physician. Strap in for this one, folks. That cannabis indica or Indian hemp, when taken in certain doses, produces pleasant dreams and fancies, is a fact well known to the East, where under the name of hashish, it is frequently given before battle by chieftains to their followers in order to destroy their fear and fill them with supernatural frenzy. The dreamy Turk indulges in it, owing to the delightful fancies it creates. But this does not hold true for the more practical nations. In the more civilized countries of the West, Indian hemp does not always produce pleasant hallucinations. In fact, says the New York Sun, they are often disagreeable. One lady, after its administration, imagined her body divided in half, the lower portion running away, under the dreadful apprehension that life would cease if they were not quickly reunited. She gave chase to the seceding lower half. Whether she caught it or not, I do not know, but sleep or consciousness probably supervened, as she is well today. Mrs. R. of Baltimore was similarly affected. She imagined her toes leaving her one by one, then her lower limbs, her fingers, her forearms, and the lower part of her trunk followed. And just as her heart was struggling to escape, she awoke. These dreams were undoubtedly terrible on account of the innate fear of death. The illusion, etc., however, may be neither pleasing nor displeasing, only inconvenient. A certain gentleman susceptible to the drug walked a distance of 10 miles or more, visited several friends, acting rationally all the time, but without the slightest knowledge of what he had done. He was surprised on finding himself at the extreme end of the city without knowing how he got there. When he subsequently learned of the visits he made, carrying on conversation in a natural manner, appearing only a trifle dull, he could scarcely believe it. Another man, when under its influence, knew what he was doing, but had no idea of distance. This was the cause of many amusing incidents and nearly an accident. After having collided with a number of men, women, and ash barrels, he started to cross the street and went directly into the middle of a horse car, which he imagined a half a block away. Some kind gentleman, seeing this plight and thinking him either blind or drunk, offered his escort home, which service was accepted. A well-known doctor says of his experience, I have been troubled with persistent headache, and hearing cannabis indica might be of some service. I took some, accidentally, an overdose. Dinner was just over, and I was sitting in my study room reading a surgical treatise. After an hour or so of reading, the letters seemed to rise up from the paper, and growing larger and larger would melt away together, leaving the page a perfect blank. Thinking my eyes were at fault, I rubbed them and started to read again. The same thing was repeated, and closing my eyes for a moment, the delusion commenced. I heard music and drumming, as if in the distance, and looking in the direction of whence it seemed to come, I saw soldiers dressed in gala uniform, preceded by bands playing the most delightful melodies. As they approached, the music became more and more distant until they passed before me in review. They were all tall, muscular fellows, at least 6'2", some mounted, most on foot. Some were dressed like the Russian hussars of the guard, with scarlet trousers and Hessian and bearskin caps. In their white furred and embroidered dolmans hanging gracefully from their shoulders as they rode by. Others were like the various bodyguards of different nations, dressed with steel breastplates and barred helmets. Some resembled the old Hungarian lifeguards, all scarlet with dress coats and beaver caps. Others, like the cuirassiers, the lancers, the dragons, the chasseurs, and the cheval. Some had high plumed hats and gun in saddle like the Wellington Lifeguards of England, and others were in the gay uniforms of Spain and Italy. Why he's got to do Spain and Italy like that, but he did. So let's get back to it. There were soldiers of times medieval and modern. There were warriors from Greece with their bared limbs, white skirts and drooping fezzes, carrying scimitars and Arabian guns. Then came some uniformed like the soldiers of India, Tartary, and China. Many were dressed as the ancient Greeks and Romans. Some had the gaudy costumes of Persia. Others were simply clad like those of Carthage. Then came soldiers of the Middle Ages, armed cap a pie on helmeted chargers bearing heavy lances and escutcheoned shields. Then followed an interval of naked Nubians, black as night, with eyes like fire. After these marched those whom I admire so much, no display, but in plain and modest gray, our own sunburnt, swarthy warriors, the music varying as the different soldiers passed to suit each nation's character became fainter and fainter until it died away in the distance. And then I woke up refreshed. I'm Ben Tomes, the high school history teacher you should have had, and this has been the Perfect Strangers History Minute.